amazing slate to the NFC.
Oh
So
yeah,
why
for sure.
don't you get started on the NFC for us, Ben? What you got?
Yeah, that first game is going to be the Rams and the Seahawks. Like you talked about, the rubber match on the other side of
Yep.
the conference. Same thing over here. They played twice before. They split those games. Home teams winning each. Um, I think the big keys right now to watch is Goff's health. I think that he took
Yep.
that last game off. The backup quarterback played pretty well. Being a backup, having to go down there. Maybe lucked out that Kyler got hurt and they had to play the backup on the other side too. But either way, I think that this is really the whole season. If you made any bets or you played any fantasy, the Seahawks was bipolar by any stretch of the imagination. They
Yep.
were on the note. One game it's a monster game for Metcalf, Lockett going off, Russ looking good, Carson. It's clicking on all cylinders. Pete Carroll's moving. Defense is playing well, and in the next game, they'll lose 16-13 or something. You know what I mean? So there's just the whole it was just a schizophrenic year for to pick what offense was going to show up for
Yep.
Seattle. On the other side of the ball, the Rams were just kind of as goofy, right? I mean, they looked really good a couple of games, and then they lose to the Jets, and then it was just awkward. The talent, the standpoint of the talent on that defense, you definitely got to go Rams, right? I mean, you got Ramsey,
Right.
and in the secondary, you got Donald just killing it up front. Just really, never really falls off as far as defensive player of the year status goes.
Right.
And the defense for Seattle is just really, they're just kind of a bend not don't break kind of a defense, and sometimes they break, So
Yep.
this is one of those another one to it's tough to pick a matchup because again it's that rubber match, you know what I mean, and they split in the regular season, and to me I think it's going to be like I said, it's going to come down to which Russ shows up. If Russ is cooking early and DK's open and they're pushing it downfield and making big throws, it can be a long night for the Rams. But if the Rams get in Russ's head and start pressuring him and force him to make some mistakes, I think the Rams could pull a really really close victory out. A late victory, but really close.
Okay.
The number.
See it.
Okay.
I'm saying with you. I see the same things as you see. Big question for me is Goff with that thumb. How effective is he going to be? You got Kupp coming off injury as well. Those are two big pieces. But like you said, there was times that team looked like they did a couple years ago when they went to the Super Bowl. Then they had some other games where it's just, who is this team? And like you said, this is a perfect game of two bipolar teams all year. But for me, I feel like Jalen Ramsey's done a tremendous job shutting guys down, and Metcalf has had trouble. Lockett hasn't had the same year that he had last year. He wasn't that as dynamic as he usually is. And I think a little bit of that goes to Russ too. Russ wasn't quite as dynamic as he was. Early on, he was great, but he kind of hit a little slow spurt for a while. And so it definitely affected Lockett, because those two were just unstoppable last year, it seemed like. And it's just something that I think Ramsey can shut him down. So I think it's going to be interesting to see, can he do it again? And like you said, which team's going to show up from both sides of the ball? They know each other real well. So yeah, it's two bipolar teams. What are the lines on this game here?
Yeah, we got, I think the Seattle is a 3-point favorite with an over under of 42. So I think that Vegas is setting that line pretty low at 42. They probably don't know who's going to show up either. You know what I mean? It's going to be a 16 to 23 game. I mean, who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, I know. And you've seen a lot of that in the last couple of weeks with both teams, right? Last week Seattle was battling all game. You got the Rams with Kyler Murray even out. That was an ugly game. They scored that touchdown on defense, or else they may not win that game. So it is. I can see the line being where it's at, and the games that these guys have played against each other has been pretty ugly.
Who you got as far as you got a winner in that? Is Seattle going to cover? Is the Rams going to pull it outright? What do you think is going to happen?
I feel like Seattle's going to take it. Goff, I have questions about his health, and can he throw the ball with his thumb? Whatever, going to have him taped up, however it's going to be. They just had a lot of trouble moving the ball on offense and getting anything really going last week without him. So if he can't go, or if he's not effective, it's going to be a long day for them. Their running backs are banged up. There was a lot of talk about the Seahawks defense has really stepped it up and been playing hot lately, and I wasn't really buying into that. They were doing a lot better. Don't get me wrong. I think that's kind of what people were getting carried away with, is that they were so bad early on and for a while that finally Jamal Adams started being more effective, that they were getting a lot better. But they take long drives, and so it's not a lot of points were being scored. So I feel like defense wasn't as good as people were saying it was. So, but I still feel like Seattle's gonna win this game. I feel like they're gonna cover, and the over under is too scary to touch for me. So I'll just take Seattle to cover.
One thing, based on your comments there, was that defense really good last week, or was the 49ers offense really bad? You know what I mean?
And that's
who knows? But Adams is going to be hurt. He's going to be available, but coming off some injury, I think he's going to have to really do some prep to get on the field. But he says by any means necessary, he's going to play. And I believe him. I think that he's kind of a gamer, but how effective he's going to be, I don't know. I'm with you, though. I think Seattle pulls out a really close, ugly game like they have been lately. I think push comes to shove. If they need one score, Russ can go down and get it. Metcalf's too big of a target. Lockett, maybe a down year, but he's still, crafty enough to get open. But, if it's 3 minutes left to go or 2 minutes left to go and they're in the 4-minute offense, 2-minute drill, I think Russ can cook it up and go down and get a field goal or go down and score a touchdown if he had to. So I'm going to go with Seattle, and I'm with you on that one. I mean, who knows if this is going to be a 17-13 game, or it could turn into a really sloppy mess as well, and see what happens, in a high scoring game. But I do think it's going to be pretty low scoring, pretty ugly, but Russ can pull it out late. Our next game. Yep, our next game we got Tampa and the Washington football team, right? Washington
Saturday night football.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting kind of, I think I need to really start with the spread and then the over-under in this game, because it really is surprising. If you had to guess, what do you think the over-under would be in a game like this?
In a game like this, you got Washington, low-scoring team. Tampa can light it up. I'm going to go 48.
All right, so it's 44.5. So you're in the neighborhood. But Tampa's only 7.5-point favorites, and if you would have to put that on paper, is that a line to push some action to try to help Washington try to cover that 7.5, or is it a line to kind of trap you in and to see that maybe Tampa's not as good as we think they are when a really good defense comes to town? Chase Young got into a little trouble this week, which what though. I want that dude on my team. If he's a free agent, man, I'm signing that kid, because I love wanting the challenge, stepping up, respect for the Tom Brady, the greatest of all time quarterback, but at the same time he ain't afraid. He's not scared. He's going to bring it, and he knows that in a foot race, if I flush out Brady, I'm catching him. You know what I mean? So I want to make sure that we recognize that defense is much better than people give it credit for. And then, Rivera and Alex Smith, they're just bringing that passion, and, we'll see what happens. I don't love Arians as a game manager, in-game coach. And I think he does a really good job getting his team ready. And I think he does a really good job making everybody confident, but I don't love his adjustments and the way he's coached back in the Arizona days, or even when he was a coordinator up in Pittsburgh. Or even in Indianapolis. I think he was a good coach in Indy when he took over, when we had that short stint there, when their coach got cancer, and he really earned himself another coaching gig. But I just don't love him with Tom Brady. I think Tom Brady makes a lot of adjustments and fixes a lot of things on the fly. But I do think the Bucs win. But what are you feeling as far as the matchup and what you see happening?
Well, you talk about the defense, and I'll be the first one to tell you that defense is better than I thought it was, and a lot of people think it does. I mean, when they came in and knocked, Pittsburgh was 11-0, playing at home. This was almost a gimme game to me, is how a lot of people felt. And that defense just showed up, and with Alex Smith, the way he's been playing, and Bruce Arians made a damn good point, or on a comment I saw that he said, they said, you're playing the 6-10 Washington Redskins. And he said, no, we're not playing the 6-10 Washington Redskins. We're playing the 4-1 Alex Smith, Washington football team.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, so the defense is solid, and a 6-10 team in the playoffs. When you almost had an 11-win Indianapolis team sitting at home, that's the thing that's kind of surprising. You're talking about that 7th playoff spot, right? Here's a perfect example. This is what you're going to get with that. You're going to get some teams that are 11-win teams not make the playoffs. 10, 11-win teams. Miami 10 wins, not sitting at home. This 6 and 10-win team hosting a playoff game, right? So is this a game where is this like the underdog, the David versus Goliath type matchup for the weekend, where you're gonna have, and is that why the line's so kind of lower? Is they're trying to get you to take Tampa because this is one of them games you look at, and this would be what kind of story would that be? A 6-10 team advancing in the playoffs, beating Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. It's pretty wild, man. But at the end of the day, I feel like you are who you are. Washington is a great story with Rivera and Alex Smith. They play some good football. They don't make a lot of mistakes. Like I said, that's been Alex Smith's thing, right? His whole career. Doesn't turn the ball over. Doesn't make the big mistakes. But Tampa with Tom is, like you said, Arians I don't trust as much, but Tom's going to have a lot of say in this, what's going on this week, and he's going to be focused in again. And I think this game's going to be ugly, to be honest with you. But yeah, like I said, the lines are a little bit.
It surprised me too.
Yeah. So and for my picks here on this one, I'm going to go Tampa is going to cover easily. And I was thinking the over under was 48. So with it being at 44.5, I'm gonna pound both of those pretty good. I'm gonna take Tampa and the over here on this one. I think some good money be made in this game here, right?
Yeah, I agree too. I think that the over for sure is in play. Tampa in the 7.5. I could see him getting in a really kind of a shootout if they, I think it was the Redskins and maybe Detroit. I said Redskins too, man. I'm just it's on the brain, but the Washington football team in Detroit, they had that back and forth a couple of games ago, and they just kept going and scoring. And it depends on what the weapons do. Gibson was always good all year.
McKissick's a solid.
Yeah. There's some talent there that's underrated if you don't know the Washington team, but you know all the names on the other side of the football.
Yeah.
And Brady and Evans and AB.
Is Evans gonna be healthy?
I mean, that knee was a little worrisome. I don't know that it'll affect him too much, but even if he was, I mean, Godwin and AB and Gronk and Brait and there's just too many guys. Yeah. So I think I'm with you. I think they cover that 7.5 pretty easy, and I think the over's in play. If they want to get up and they want to get going, they may try to push it if it turns out to be 38-17, something like that. Wouldn't surprise me at all. So
okay.
Finally, we got the last game of the whole NFC side of the slate is Chicago and the New Orleans Saints. This is the afternoon game on Sunday. Interesting enough, like this isn't the divisional matchup or a rubber match in any way, but they did play earlier in the year, and so that game, if you had to think about the Chicago Bears and the way their season has gone, they Nick Foles took the Saints at that point were cruising along to overtime at home in Soldier Field, and they lost by a field goal in overtime to the Saints at that point. Nick Foles kind of again not going to be a factor in this game. Hopefully, if Trubisky stays healthy. But Taylor, two teams. I mean, I think that the Bears turned their season around, and the one thing I worry about with the Saints is, they kind of had that COVID issue with the running backs and how much is the lack of practice and a lack of being around the team going to affect some of that cohesion. I don't think Kamara and Breeze are going to have an issue, but Murray and maybe the rest of the backups in that running back room, who knows if they're going to be available or how effective they may be not having any practice. And then again, they're at home playing on the turf. I think it's going to help. And then
Mike Thomas back.
Mike Thomas is supposed to play. And hopefully that will be, I think Cook's being a really good tight end as far as, a release valve for Breeze with having Thomas in and out of the lineup. Manny Sanders is a decent stretch, kind of a stretch to field type of a receiver. So there are some weapons there. Hill still runs his packages coming in, and it's kind of that Lamar type of running back threat just from the quarterback position. So it is going to be an interesting matchup because it depends on really what Mitch shows up. I mean, Montgomery's been running the ball really well. Robinson's a really good receiver, underrated probably since coming over from Jacksonville. His entire time with the Chicago Bears has been underrated. He's had a good year, even regardless of who his quarterback is. Mitchell Trubisky or a couple of different quarterbacks this year off and on with each other. But, this is one of those games where you look at it and you say, just like the last game, Bucks are going to kill the Washington. You're like, Saints are going to kill the Bears. But, I don't know if it's going to be that easy.
No, I agree with you 100%. One thing I'd be curious to do, and maybe this will be something we'll put up on the Instagram, a little post here. I'm curious to go back the last 4, maybe 5 games and look at average points per game and say one is New Orleans, one is Chicago, or maybe they're neck and neck or close to that. But Chicago was putting up 30 plus points a game in the last 4 weeks of the season, and up until last week, I don't know if the game just got too big for them or what, or Rodgers is Rodgers, and they just, they couldn't figure it out. I don't know, but up to that point, I thought it was gonna be a good game. Chicago's been playing really well. Like you said, Trubisky's been playing. It's like he knows his contract's coming up and he needs to do something. But on the flip side, the Saints offense hasn't been, like you said, all year you've had Mike Thomas injured, Drew Brees injured, Kamara injured, COVID. It's like you've had so much stuff that have we even seen the real Saints all year? Is there enough time for them to kind of get in sync together to make a run? I don't know. I mean, a lot of unanswered questions. Like you said, you look on paper and you say Saints are going to roll easily. This ain't a matchup, but this could be one of them games that could be really won either way if you really look at it. When you start looking, digging a little deeper. You got Jimmy Graham coming back to New Orleans, right? Trubisky loves Montgomery's been phenomenal. I mean, that guy just every week it just seems like he just produces and finds the end zone. And then Trubisky likes Allen Robinson. That's his number one receiver, obviously. And then he uses the tight ends a lot. Graham and Kmet both have been solid for him. Other than that, you got Mooney and then some of those guys like that out there. But I don't know. This game could be interesting. I'm really, really interested to see what the line is on this one. So what you got as far as the line on this one here?
Yeah, I think this is another interesting one. In the other kind of the way of the other ones were interesting. It looks like how we expected it in our heads. The New Orleans Saints 9.5 point favorites at home.
Wow.
And the over under 47, which is not a really high over under as far as the total score goes, but 9.5 point favorites at home almost feels like you got to take Bears to cover. But at the same time, I don't know. It's one of those that could be a trap too, right? You say, oh, that's a big line. Bears going to cover and Saints win by 30.
Right.
You know how Vegas plays mind games, so but I thought it was going to be a lot closer, especially because they played earlier in the year, went to OT, and then the issues, Bears getting hot, Saints kind of cooling off. But I don't want to touch the Saints cover or not. It seems like it's too big of a number. I do think the Saints will win, but I like the over in that game too. I think the Bears offense is
money
underrated.
line and over.
Okay, yeah,
money line and over. Okay. And see me, I'm baffled, man. When you read that to me, I hadn't looked at the line. I'm shocked. And to be honest with you, I'm gonna jump all over that 9.5 because I just haven't seen it yet. And like you said, to me, it really feels like you hit the nail on the head. The Vegas is playing this the way our minds and just looking at it, you would think, but when you go back and look at the way, the season's played out, I've been one myself, and maybe it's because I don't watch them enough, and maybe I don't want nobody to take nothing away from my Steelers defense, but I just haven't been. People talking about the New Orleans defense has been one of the best in the league. Well, I haven't really been that in love with them. I mean, yeah, they're good. I'm not saying they're not bad. They're not good, but I'm kind of interested to see how this plays out. The over, I'm kind of I would be tempted to take the over just because both teams seem like they can put up some points, but I might stay away from that for now. But I'm going to go for Chicago to cover. New Orleans will win the game, but I think Chicago's going to cover that game. It's going to be a closer game, like you said, like the earlier matchup. But that's pretty interesting, man. Like I said, it's got some good
Very
matchups
surprising.
this weekend. It's going to be some fun football this weekend. Like I said, this is kind of almost like your Thanksgiving anymore. Thanksgiving now we got 3 games. It's great. And then sometimes later in the season you get a couple Saturday games. But this is great.
It's like that. It's like that old school bowl season, right? Like New Year's Eve and New Year's Day used to have 6-7 bowls all crammed in there every day, nonstop. I remember going to my grandma's house, and my grandma's house, and we'd eat pozole and menudo and have tortillas and just watch football for 12 hours every day for that whole weekend.
Yeah,
so
that's it, man.
It reminds me of that a lot. Yeah.
The family's going to be in for a long weekend this week when I let them know that, hey, it's all day Saturday and Sunday, man. You guys are welcome to join me, but don't expect me to know.
The couch is going to be warmed up. The couch is going to be warmed up.
Most definitely. So
we went through all the matchups. We went through what our gut says, what our brain says as far as some of those picks. But what's one upset that could happen that would not surprise you at all before we wrap this up?
One upset that would not surprise me. I got to go with the Rams, honestly. I think those teams are just so similar to each other, and just the way they played all year. They know each other real well. Like I said, I just feel like that they're just so evenly matched that one can literally go either way. So I think that's the one upset. If the Rams went and beat Seattle, I wouldn't be all that surprised really in the NFC. On the AFC side of things, as much as I hate to say it, Pittsburgh. That's the one game that I'm most worried about. If I had to pick an upset, there'd be one I'd be looking at because again, same situation. They know each other real well. God, you got to just think about how the Browns got to be feeling. Like this is it. We made it to the playoffs finally. Let's take that next step and let's win the damn game, right? And like I told you, Alex Van Pelt might have a couple tricks up his sleeve. Like I said, hey. What do you have to lose if you call on stuff that's not on the sheet? So how about you?
I would be interested in real quick on that game. How much Landry, no Joe Hayden. What's going to happen? You know what I mean? I think that's a real concern if I'm a Pittsburgh fan. And then
for sure.
How much Ben's head's going to be in the game if his receivers drop passes early. If those young guys drop a couple passes in the first quarter, second quarter, he's going to either not trust them or just pout, and he's known for a little drama. But
and then my arm hurts.
Yeah, but he's also known for some big wins. You know what I mean? So I think he's one of those guys where all too well, but you take what you can get, all the positives, and you put up with some of the negatives and overlook it. But if I had to go on my side of things as far as an upset goes, on the NFC side, I'm with you. I think Rams is almost a pick 'em, and that Rams-Seattle game is almost a pick 'em. But I would not be surprised if the Rams won, and I wouldn't be surprised if that defense really took them to the victory. On the AFC side, I really do feel like the Colts have more of a chance than people give them a shot for. I know they're on the road. I know Philip Rivers is old, but Frank Reich is a really creative coach. I think that they can limit mistakes, run the ball, and make Buffalo have to take those big chances and get those big chunk plays to beat them.
You've been big on that defense all year.
I love them. I love that defense.
They take the ball away. They force turnovers.
It reminds me of those Bob Sanders days. You know what I mean? When Tony Dungy was there, and they just make plays. I mean, there's just something about the Colts. I do love that defense. I don't trust Rivers all that much, but take the ball out of his hands. If he goes 17 for 23, 220 yards, a touchdown or two, and then they just grind it out with those running backs, I think they got a chance for sure.
Well, hey, I know all year long I've been saying, especially in the last 4 or 5 weeks, like, when is the old Allen going to show back up again? The crazy one making the boneheaded throws. Like, why did you throw that? Why did you, I'm waiting for that. So, hey, it'd be interesting to see if something like that happens. There's a lot of pressure. Like, there might not be a lot of crowd there and all that stuff, but the pressure in the playoffs goes up a couple notches. And like you said, it's just 1 or 2 turnovers here or there can turn the game around.
And Josh Allen, man, I love the guy. Honestly, he's fun. He's like playing a video. It's like the old Michael Vick kind of video. I mean, and maybe Brett Favre, maybe a little Tony Romo in there if you want, young Tony Romo. But Steve Young, that I don't love him out of the pocket running, lowering his shoulder, taking an impact. That's dumb. You cannot do that in the playoffs. No. Take the slide, go out of bounds, preserve your body. You got to make sure that you're there for your team. I would hate for him to be too overhyped and just want to get that first down in the second quarter that don't matter, and then all of a sudden he's out of the game for a chunk of time or the whole rest of the postseason. So that's just one thing I do worry about a little bit with him. But I mean, that's maybe here nor there. But football fans who watch the games know that you hold your breath when a guy like him gets outside. Lamar's pretty smart about his running right now.
He's gotten better,
Russ is pretty good about his running. Deshaun Watson's probably my favorite running quarterback when I watch him play because he don't take a lot of chances. I mean, he's really getting shortchanged by what's going on in Houston. We'll get there now.
It's horrible, man. It's horrible.
And we'll do that in an off-season video, and we'll get more in depth about it. But as far as those mobile quarterbacks, Josh Allen, do not try to do this yourself. You have all the weapons at your disposal. Let them make plays. Trust your defense. If you got a 3 and out, sometimes just take it and get back on the field again. Don't be a hero. And I think they can pull. But I do feel if there is an upset, I would not be surprised if the Colts won.
That's gonna be something like that. Yeah, no, like I said, it's gonna be an exciting weekend, man. It's gonna be fun. Like I said, I'm not big on the one bye. I used to like to having the 2 byes, but give me an extra game each day, and I guess I can, And in a lot of ways too, there's some teams that are better off playing right away too. I mean, how many times have you seen the team sit, have the bye and come out flat? So who knows? Maybe this could be something good. I guess it's never wrong. It's never bad when you add another game into the slate. So
I will ask this. I will claim to be naive on this, but was this a change just for the COVID season, or is this going to be a change ongoing moving forward?
This is moving forward.
The new format? Okay.
Before all this started. And then, because remember last year, actually, I think maybe been the last 2 years, last year, I know Pittsburgh for sure would have been the 7th seed. And then the year before that, I know they're right close to it too. So it was something that I was kind of in favor of just on that side of it. But now this is a change it's official, and that's the way it's going to be. So,
and we've seen a lot of teams come out of wild card weekend, make it to the Super Bowl and win. I mean, the Giants, as a Patriots fan, I really hate them for what they did to my team, but they earned those Super Bowls. I'll be the first to admit that Eli beat Tom Brady, and that's fine. But as far as legacy goes, but overall, like I said, those wild card teams make it to the Super Bowl, make some noise. So, well,
like we said, you're playing, you get hot, you're peaking at the right time, and like I said, that's what makes Buffalo so dangerous. They're doing exactly what you want to see them do. A Super Bowl contender do, and if you've seen happen with your 2008 Steelers, your 2010 Packers, your Rams a couple years ago, you got your Chiefs last year, peaking at the right time, and just like I said, a lot of those teams had to play wild card weekend, and they just kept it going, kept that momentum going, and rode the wave. And Buffalo seems like a team that could do that. We'll see if they can pull it off. A lot of good storylines, a lot of good matchups. It's gonna be fun, man. It's gonna be a fun time this weekend. So
cool. Well, I think that brings us to the end of the road on this one, and we'll get together and circle back, and we'll go over the winners and losers on Monday or Tuesday, and we'll post it up for you guys in episode 4. And have fun with this weekend watching the games. And Dion and Ben, we're going to come back and do it again. And thanks everybody for tuning in. War Sports, wins above replacement. See y'all later. Peace out.